But before the break, I told you we're going to be joined by Dr. Moses Maclean Agnory, Registrar of the Takoradi Technical University. He's here with us. He's written 3 books, ready for launching. But before that, we get into the other books. Dr. Agnory, like I call him. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Winston.
And how are you doing? Hope you're fine.
People say I'm fine. I can't complain.
People say you're fine.
Oh, yes.
Not you saying you're fine.
No. When I weigh myself, I think I did in there.
But people say you are fine.
But people say, yeah, I don't have a problem. I'm fine.
Oh, then that's okay.
Yes, sure.
The voice of the people is the voice of God.
Of course. And you are who you are because of the reflections of society.
Okay. So once people say you are fine, we say you are fine.
So you carry it along.
Good. And I see these books here.
Yeah.
First, I know that you are, going to be launching the history of universities, university governance and leadership in Ghana, university management and operations in Ghana.
Sure.
But you also have human relations in Ghanaian organizations and organizational development and management.
Sure.
Tell us about these books briefly before we get to, the 3.
Yes, actually, exiting from University of Ghana around 2000, it just dawned on me that upon all that I've learnt at the master's level, one key thing struck me, that our development agenda will not be achieved if we don't pay attention and extra attention to the human being. And it's not that we don't have the human beings, we have them. But the biggest problem had to do how we relate, especially in our case in Ghana, when we have several ethnic groups. How can we harness that together for us to remain focused? So I decided to research into how we can relate even at the family level, community level, organizational level, and indeed our being and our problem and our challenges, how we relate. Then I came up with human relations in Ghanaian organizations.
Okay. Superior
subordinate relationship, peers relationships, and how that either impede or improves our job relationships.
And then the organizational development and management.
So once we get the human factor right, now you want to see how that can influence the total development of organizations. So Lawrence and I decided to investigate that, and we came up with organizational development and management, generic. So if you pick any organization and you want to see what is in there, this book speaks to it directly.
Then let's talk about the new ones. History of universities. University governance and leadership in Ghana. University management and operations in Ghana. Let's start with the history of universities. Why is history of universities important to get you to research and publish a book on it?
Thank you very much, Winston. If you don't know where you are coming from, any route leads you anywhere. It just dawned on me and Kwesi, and the names I mentioned are all my mentees, that if you work in a space that you don't really understand how it began, it's like anything that is told to you, or you are told, you pick it. So I noticed also that whilst interacting with colleagues, even in the job space and all that, the materials that give us a reflection are all foreign-centered. So can we then pick from the foreign? So we decided to look for the first universities and from the ancient Greeks and blah, 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 that led to Africa, led to West Africa. Then we trace it down to Ghana. And Ghana is so intriguing. Apart from University of Ghana, we all know is the first university and all that. The question is, what did the colonial masters bequeath to us, even with the University of Ghana? And then translating it down to KNUST and the rest, to even shifting the focus from traditional universities, so we call it, to the technical, even to private. All right. So we thought that we should have a ready-made material that people can reflect on, and as it were, like I said, a Ghanaian-centered one, practitioner-informed, historical issues that can help us understand our present and our future.
Great. And how about the university governance and leadership in Ghana?
Sure. The accounts will tell you fish will rot and they start from the head. And we have seen a number of governance realities that are negative. You will find a chairman of council not agreeing and fighting to say, I've sacked the vice chancellor. There is one in current stories that I don't want to mention. And there are several, perhaps untold stories of such nature. And for the universities, as we all know, that's supposed to drive the development of this nation. If you don't get the governance structures right, get the leadership right, I'm sorry, our developmental goals will continue to be challenged. So Kwesi and I also felt that, look, let's analyze the governance structures and that of the leadership requirements that can help the universities achieve their mandate. And exactly so we have done. And Winston, one funny thing is this. Universities are very, very complex institutions. Look, you have people of equal intelligence in the various faculties, and you sit in there as a CEO or the Vice Chancellor and you want to drive these energies. How do you get it done? When especially you are just being handed over to you an act, the best of it is to reduce it to the basic laws, or what we call the statutes. If you are a smart one, and of late majority are doing so, we try to get a strategic plan. Then the regulatory bodies like GTEC and CTVET and the rest also dump on you some regulatory documents. Now the question is, the new recruits, the young generations that are in there, would they have the time to be able to dissect these documents to guide their actions and the work they are doing? So either to make it easier, we decided to reduce all this into some, if you want to call it, a manual, even though it's a book. That cuts across quality assurance, procurement, human resource, general administration, the various structures of the university, and how we can use these to manage the system.
Okay. And then you have university management and operations. So from the leadership, then you come to the management and operations.
So the leadership must drive the management of the institution. The leadership, and for that matter, governance structures must make operations easier. And for that matter, if I asked you, even though you are not with us, and sometimes people with us, in interviews, you ask them the difference between central administration and registry, and they will humbly tell you, it has not come across my mind. It's not their fault. He's a lecturer, he's been employed, and straight away in his letters, you give him straight scope of work. He should research, get new knowledge, teach through impartation, and then do community service. Why should he be interested in the difference between central administration and registry? If he thinks there's something wrong with his salary or something, he walks straight to human resource. But who manages the human resource? What are the other pillars of the registry? What's the difference between registry and the other constituents that make up the central administration? And very soon, shockingly, this same lecturer in quote I have spoken about does 4 or 5 years, and he's already an HOD. There it dawns on him, I'm now an academic and administrative head, and therefore he has to rely on the hands already in that particular department. And for us, I think that is wrong. After their orientation, some of these materials should be available for people to read, because as they progress, whether you like it or not, they all will tip up in administration. So management and operations of universities became something we couldn't have ignored.
Okay. So who should be interested in these books?
Winston, honestly, I'll tell you everybody, even those in the SHSs, because sometimes it's what up there we mirror down. For example, if you take a typical university, we will call a vice chancellor, isn't it? We say his immediate assistance in terms of academics is who? The pro vice chancellor.
Yes.
So even if you go to the SHS, the headmaster is there. The immediate person below him is the assistant headmaster, either domestic or administration and it's the same principles we run. So we have done this focusing really on the higher education, but it transcends to any organization. Let me even tell you, people might think that this is just for the educational sector. Fine, say so, but even in health they have training institutions, in agriculture they have training institutions, and the principles are the same. So it is actually for anybody in managerial position who wants to understand and get his work done easily.
Okay, so when are you launching the new books?
Thank you, Winston. By the grace of God, 10th of this month, which is next week, Tuesday, 10 a.m. at TTU Auditorium, Takrady Technical University Auditorium. And we are extending our invitation to all people who are interested in the development of this nation and higher education.
Great. But before we go, you are Registrar of Takrady Technical University.
Yes, please.
Now, are the technical universities living up to their mandate? And to what extent do you think these 3 books can help as a resource material for its administration?
I think, if I am not exaggerating, as to tell you, where I practice my trade, we are on course. And I want to single out our Vice Chancellor and his management team to thank them so much for giving us a direction. What is our mandate? Our mandate, and even from our motto, you would hear, we say, Adrian Akuma, and then the hands, Sa Mapuntu. We churn out students or graduates out there, we do tracer studies, and the response we get are positive. So on that score, I would say, fine, we are doing very well. And then, just as we said, for the books I have already said, it's good for almost everyone. And my colleagues within the technical and the public university space should make sure they get copies of these and to guide them do their work as is expected.
Great. But before you go also, it's important. Doctor, 3 PhDs. Why?
Winston, this is an issue you have brought up. But normally I encourage my colleagues just to call me Moses, because the chain of degrees, and to even go further on that, I have 3 masters already before the 3 PhDs. And I think to make it lighter, I think in my life, the Trinity is really working for me. I attended all the 3 premier universities in Ghana. I have UCC, Legon, and KNUST. Trinity. As I speak with you, I have 3 boys. If I speak to you, I have 3 PhDs. As I speak to you, I have 3 books and others. For me, everything, by the grace of God, has to do with the Son, the Holy Spirit, and
the Father.
and the Father himself. But to summarize it, like Jacob in the Bible, he decided to go in for 1 wife. But tradition deceived him after he had done the 7-year service. They said, until the elder marries, you can't. I think this can be aligned to my story too. As an administrator back those days at UCC, the story went like administrators start PhD, they are not able to finish. So I joined that kind of trail. And there was that pressure to say the last one will fail, and that is Moses. In order to avoid my own colleagues at UCC, and Legon I thought I've just done a lot in Legon, so let me go to KNUST and try. I was running away, but not knowing I was going to face a bigger challenge. From 2011, 12 academic year, by the grace of God, within 2.5 years, I was almost done. I submitted. And a gentleman at the head of department, then name withheld for some special reasons, sat on my thesis that I submitted for a whole year. Ooh. So, Winston, you can imagine, as at that time, I had counted Yamransa, KNUST, with accommodation charges and all that, 53 times. And so at a point, it was like, why don't you give up? And I said, if I give up, then I have cemented that wrong perception that as for administrators, they can't do a PhD. So on my way back that very day, crazy, it just dawned on me, why don't you do plan B? And that was just around the time when these online things had begun. So I enrolled, and by the grace of God, within 2.5, 3 years, I was done with that one. So people started calling me doctor back at UCC. Then you'll be surprised to hear 2.5 years I was done. What I did was collaboration. If I did my chapter 1, I got people who were good at chapter 1 to peruse it for me. There are professors around me, so I actually used the human resources around me. If I did chapter 3, methodology, and I felt I couldn't see it through well, I got professors in there to critique and ink it for me. So my work went very fast, plus what I was doing. So invariably, those guys who had helped, about 3 or 4 of them, I just want to keep their names for now, went like, we've heard you have graduated, but you didn't invite us to KNUST for us to, we all supported you. I said, no, this is not from KNUST, from where? Online. And Ghanaians and the way we subtly accept these new things. So it was like, no, we didn't support you for an online. We want an on-site. So go KNUST and bring our degree. And it became a laughing soft. Someone like, you said you were going to PhD, went to me and you were outside. Oh, is that the case? Okay, so I'll continue. Then invariably, management changed at KNUST. Professor Ellis then took over. And it was not me alone who was in that kind of situation. So he invited for a seminar. By the time I finished presenting my work, so they all went like, but this is a complete work. Why have you not graduated? Winston. That was the day I wept. In fact, when my father died, I didn't weep like that. So eventually, when they sat down, looked at it, they said, no, that department didn't have the expertise to have supervised the work you have done. So change it. So I had to change for patient care to quality assurance. Oh, I'm telling you. And a new supervisor was assigned to me.
Start the whole thing again.
I'm telling you, Winston. So when that happened, and this pressure also from UCC, my colleagues, I eventually went back to them and they said, but that work, we okayed it together with the supervisor. So if they are now saying they didn't have expertise and yet made you go through that hell, you bring the work back to us. So I went back to geography department. And within 2 years, because it was already an existing work, I only changed chapter 1 to 4, the introductory aspect, collected new data, analyzed it, and I graduated 2020. So when KNUST saw that, I know this is once you graduate, it's online. So when KNUST, Professor Ellis and his team realized that I have graduated, they were like, but you were doing another PhD secret, they didn't tell. I said, no, this was my story. So they said, okay, fine, don't worry. Where have you reached? And we have gone far then. So by 2021 too, KNUST own came. So, like I situated it with Jacob. Jacob went for one wife. He ended up had to serve a number of periods. In my case, I actually went for one PhD. But frustrations taught me patience and perseverance. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage the youth of Ghana. If you have a challenge, know that you are bigger than that challenge. Even it's about even health, and you are hit with a disease, until the disease and you part, have perseverance, focus, and remain determined. So this is my story with the 3 PhDs.
Wow, interesting. Dr. Moses Maclean Agnory.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I like your story.
Yes.
It will motivate all of us to do something unique.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's important.
My young man here says yes.
Never give up.
You
And
don't
have patience and persevere. In fact, if I had given up, I am sure I wouldn't have been the only administrator now in Ghana who people thought could not get a PhD, now having the 3. I'm waiting for somebody to break that record. Yes.
3 in 10 years.
3 within 10 years space.
No.
I think I counted them 2011, 2012 academic year to 2021.
Oh, okay.
3 and 10 years
10
space.
years.
Yes.
Maybe Aaron here can try.
No, he can break it. He can break it. And I'm not saying it to boast, but I'm saying this to encourage people who are having challenges with their thesis, who are having challenges with their supervisors, who are having challenges generally in life. In fact, life for me is all about patience and perseverance. If you don't have patience, even when you are driving, you will hit your car. If you don't persevere, the journey may become too long, but gradually you will get there.
I'm told you were the youngest in your is it MPA class?
MBA, rather.
MBA.
Yes.
Between 1998 to 2000.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I ended up also becoming their lead.
Okay.
I served as GRASAC president, University of Ghana.
Oh, okay. Around that time.
And
my father was the oldest man in your class.
And he was the oldest one in my class and my good friend. And they were the sponsors. They understood life. He and Kobra Yaboa, and a few other guys. Look, Akumia, I own respected Akumia. They were all in my class, and I had to lead them. Even this gentleman, this policeman, the popular man, Kumasi now, the
Kofi
Boache, and the one who had some human resource issues. Those then, they were all in my class, MPA, MBA, and I had to lead them. So you can imagine.
We can imagine. You've done well.
Thank God.
Dr. Agnory, thank you very, very much. So when are you launching the book again?
On the 10th of this month, and that happened to be Tuesday next week, 10 a.m. at TTU Auditorium.
Okay.